Dad, I have cleaned my bedroom. Can I go to the park? Okay, good. See you later. Okay, so this is the present perfect. Okay, so this is the present perfect affirmative. I have cleaned. I have cleaned. You have cleaned. He, she, or it has cleaned. We have cleaned. You have cleaned. And they have cleaned. So if we now analyze the form, then this is what it looks like. Okay, the subject, and then we have the verb have in the present simple form. For example, I have, you have, he has. And then at the end we have the verb in the past participle form. Okay, so this is the past participle of the verb clean. And this part, have, we are using have as an auxiliary verb. And the important part here is in the third person singular, it changes, it is has. And this one is the main verb. So clean is the main verb, and this is the past participle. So for a regular verb like clean, we add ed to the verb to form the past participle. Okay, so that is the affirmative. Now let's look at the contracted form of the affirmative. So I have cleaned, I've cleaned. So we put an apostrophe and then the letters V, E, and we pronounce it as one syllable, I've. You've cleaned. He's cleaned. She's cleaned. It's cleaned. We've cleaned. You've cleaned. They've cleaned. Okay? Now the negative form. I have not cleaned the car. So here is the negative form of the present perfect. I have not cleaned. You have not cleaned. He, she, it has not cleaned. We have not cleaned. You have not cleaned. They have not cleaned. Subject. The verb have in the correct form of the present simple. The word not, and then the past participle form again. Okay? And as always, be careful of he, she, it. It is the only one where we say has and not have. And notice that always the past participle form, the form is always the same for each subject. So this never changes. Okay, so that makes it a little bit easier. Now the contracted form of the negative. I haven't cleaned. You haven't cleaned. He hasn't cleaned. She hasn't cleaned. It hasn't cleaned. We haven't cleaned. You haven't cleaned. They haven't cleaned. Okay? Now, in the negative, there are two ways of forming the contracted form. Okay, this is the first way. I will now show you the second method. I've not cleaned. You've not cleaned. He's not cleaned. She's not cleaned. It's not cleaned. We've not cleaned. You've not cleaned. And they've not cleaned. Okay, so both of these methods are correct, but this is better. Okay, this is the preferred method, and this is correct, but I advise you to use this method. Question form. Have you visited Buckingham Palace? So here is the question form. Have I visited? Have you visited? Has he, she, it visited? Have we visited? Have you visited? And have they visited? So we have the verb have in the present simple form, subject, and again the verb in the past participle form, and a question mark. Don't forget the question mark to show that it is a question. And as always, don't forget this is has. This is the only part that changes. Question form, another type of question. What has she cooked for dinner? Why have you done that? Where have they gone? Okay, so in all of these examples, in red, this is the normal form for the question. Okay, we have just seen that. We saw that on the previous slide. And we can also ask a question, another type of question, by adding a question word before the form, here in blue. So we can ask a question with a question word by adding the question word to the front of the sentence. So here we can add a question word, either what, where, why, who, or how, followed by the verb have, subject, and the verb in the past participle form with a question mark. Now the past participle spelling rules. These are the same spelling rules as for the past simple form. Okay, so if you already know those, they are the same. But here is some revision. So regular verbs, simply add ed. Walk, walked. Clean, cleaned. So I have walked, I have cleaned. Regular verbs ending in a silent e, add d. I have died. I have closed. Regular verbs ending in a consonant and the letter y, we change the y to I and add ed. I have hurried. I have carried. IED. Regular verbs ending in a vowel and a letter y, add ed. I have stayed. I have played. Ed. Regular verbs with one syllable ending in a consonant and a vowel and a consonant. Double a consonant and add ed. I have stopped. I have planned. So we double the P and add ed. A regular verb with more than one syllable and ending in a consonant and a vowel and a consonant. We double the final consonant only if the final syllable is stressed, and then we add ed. So I have preferred. I have regretted. So since the second syllable is stressed, we double the R and add ed. But if the final syllable is not stressed, we just add ed. I have transferred, ed, because the first syllable is stressed. Verbs ending in the letter L, always double the L and add ed. I have cancelled, double L-E-D. I have travelled. This is a British English rule. In American English, they follow the rules above here. So they follow the rule about stressed or non-stressed final syllable. So in American English, it is I have cancelled with a single letter L. I have travelled, single letter L. Irregular verbs, past participle. So here is a list of a few common irregular verbs. I have been, I have broken, I have bought, I have chosen, I have come, I have done, I have drunk, I have eaten, I have gone, I have had, I have made, I have run, I have said, I have seen, I have thought, and many more. Unfortunately, there are no rules for these irregular verbs. You must simply learn them. Okay? So every time you learn an irregular verb, you must learn the past participle. Position of adverbs. An example of adverbs that we can use with the present perfect: always, only, never, ever, still, just, already, and there are others. So how do we position these words? Well, in the affirmative, we can say, we have just arrived in London. Here is the present perfect, and here is the adverb. I have only cleaned the bathroom. Present perfect, adverb. So the adverb is between the past participle and the auxiliary verb have. Question form: have you ever visited London? So the present perfect and the adverb. Has he already left the office? And so the adverb, again, it goes between the past participle and the question form of the auxiliary verb have. So after the subject, in fact. Okay? Exercises. Put the words in brackets into the affirmative present perfect form, but do not use the contracted form. Example. So I want you to put the verb clean in the present perfect form. The answer is, my parents have cleaned the kitchen. So question 1. I'll give you a couple of seconds, or you can pause the video. Okay, so the answer is, Mark has eaten all the sandwiches. This is irregular. Question 2. So the answer here is, I have finished my English homework. Okay. Exercise 2. This time I want you to put the words in brackets into the negative present perfect. And I want you to use the contracted form. Example. So the answer here is, the children haven't cleaned their teeth. Question 1. We haven't prepared the meeting. Question 2. My sister hasn't visited Buckingham Palace. Exercise 3. This time put the words in brackets in the question form. Example. Have they cleaned the bathroom? Question 1. Has Richard done the shopping? And question 2. Have you dropped a plate? Okay, so those are the exercises. Example. Mark says, why is Sarah not playing tennis? David replies, she has broken her leg. So here is the present perfect. Okay, the present perfect is here in red. And the explanation is that, in fact, David doesn't need to say exactly when Sarah broke her leg. Okay, it is not important. So exactly when, the only thing that is important is that it is in the past. All right, so the present perfect tells us that the action, the accident, is in the past, but we do not know exactly when she broke her leg. And the present perfect, it describes an event in the past. For example, Sarah breaks her leg, and it explains a situation in the present. And the situation here in the present is Sarah is not playing tennis. So always with the present perfect, there is always a connection or an effect with the present. Okay, that is very important. So it's a past action with an effect or connection in the present. Well, the present perfect, the name is actually confusing because it is a past tense. Okay, it is not a present tense, it is a past tense. It describes an event in the past, but it does not describe exactly when it happened. Okay? So here is the time. Imagine this is the time. Here is the present. This is now. Here we have the past. And here is the future. So the present perfect, it describes an action or event here, somewhere here. But we do not know exactly where or when. Maybe Sarah broke her leg here, or here, or maybe even here. We do not know with the present perfect. It is not important. And the events or actions in the past have an effect or connection with the present. Okay? Example. Mark is sad because his cat has died. His cat has died. So there is the present perfect. And the connection with the present is, well, the effect is now Mark is sad. Okay? And exactly when the cat died is not important. It is not important if the cat died yesterday, or last week, or even last month. It doesn't change anything. Mark is still sad. The cat is still dead. The result in the present is the same. The cat is dead. So we use the present perfect simply to say that something has happened in the past. Let's go to the cinema to watch the Harry Potter film. Have you seen it? So here it is in the question form of the present perfect. And here, the connection with the present is, well, it will help us make a decision if we want to go to the cinema. Okay? But it is not important when you saw the Harry Potter film. It's either yes or no. You have seen it, or you haven't seen it. If you have seen it, then we do not go to the cinema. Okay? But if you haven't yet seen it, then we will go to the cinema. So it's yes or no. Have you seen it? It doesn't matter. It is not important if you saw the film yesterday or last week. The result in the present is the same. So we use the present perfect for this situation. News reports. News reports in the media often use the present perfect at the start of a report to give a general summary. Example. The Prime Minister, David Cameron, has promised to create more jobs for young people. So this is an example article in a newspaper. This is the beginning of the article. And you can see we use the present perfect to give a general summary of the news. And then after that, very often in news articles, the past simple tense is then used to give more specific information. So, for example, the next paragraph is, during yesterday's conference in London, the Prime Minister promised to create over 1,000 new jobs over the next 6 months for young people leaving school. So here, now we give more information about the news, and we are being more specific. We are saying where and when. So since it is now more specific, we use the past simple. Promised. Ed, promised. Okay? Unspecified time before now. So we use the present perfect to simply say something happened in the past, but we do not know exactly when. Okay? So we use the present perfect with indefinite time adverbs. These are words like ever, never, once, before, so far, already, yet. So all of these words, we use them to say that something has happened in the past, but we do not know exactly when. Example, I have never been to New York. So in red is the present perfect, and never is the adverb. Have you ever seen an elephant? I have met him before. So in all of these cases we use the present perfect to say that something has happened in the past, but it is not important exactly when. We can use the present perfect to describe new experience we have gained at an unspecified time in the past. Example, I have learned to play the piano. Yes, I have been to London. How does he know how to use this software? And the answer is, well, he has studied computing. All right. These three examples show the present perfect to describe experience that we have acquired in the past. Change over time. We use the present perfect to describe change that has evolved over a period of time. Video games have become very popular with young people. Your English has improved. Okay, so here we are using the present perfect to describe a progressive change. So your English has improved. So perhaps last year your English wasn't very good and now it is good. So we say it has improved. Okay, we use the present perfect for this. An uncompleted action that you are expecting. We use the present perfect to describe an action which we expected, but it has not happened. So we are waiting for something. And in fact, in the present, we are still waiting for the action to happen. I still haven't washed the dog. Mark hasn't finished his homework yet. Okay, so again, in red, we have the present perfect. And in blue, these are adverbs which express that we are still waiting. We are still expecting something. So I haven't washed the dog. I still haven't washed the dog. I need to do it. I will do it in the future. I haven't done it in the past. Notice that both of these are in the negative. Hasn't. Haven't. Several actions at different times. We can use the present perfect to describe several actions at different unspecified times in the past. And more actions are possible in the future. We've been to France many times. I've called him 3 times. So Mark here, Mark has called somebody 3 times. And since more actions are possible in the future, maybe he has the intention of calling a 4th time, a 5th time, a 6th time. He's not finished. Okay? But so far, in the past, he has called 3 times so far. He has called 3 times. Duration. From the past until now. So we can use the present perfect to describe something that started in the past and has continued up until now, the present. And the action or event is continuing. It is not finished. Okay? So there's an event, starts here, it's carrying on, continuing until the present, and it is going to continue after the present. But be careful, we can only do this with these types of verbs. 1. Non-continuous verbs. These are verbs like love, hate, want, be, need. And 2. Non-continuous uses of mixed verbs. These are words like have, hear, feel, see. And we also add these verbs live, work, teach and study. So this rule is only valid for these 3 types of verbs. Examples. Well, we can express duration either using for followed by a period of time, or since followed by a specific moment in time. He has loved her for several years. So here is the present perfect, followed by for and a period of time, several years. Or we can say he has loved her since 2007. So we say since plus a specific moment in time. I have had this car for 2 weeks. Or I have had this car since August. She has worked at IBM for 2 months. She has worked at IBM since July. This is very important, that the action or event is continuing. It is not finished. So, example, here, she has worked at IBM for 2 months. And she is at IBM now, in the present. She still works at IBM now and is continuing there. Okay, that is very important. This is very important. Time expressions. The present perfect describes an event in the past, but it does not describe exactly when it happened. Okay, we've seen this. So here we have our time that we've already seen. So, like we have already seen, we are describing an event sometime in the past. We do not know when. I have been to London, for example. But we can limit the period of the past with an unfinished time expression. For example, in the last week, or this week, or today. So here we can say, I have been to London 4 times in the last month. And you can see, so the time period is shorter. So it means that we have been to London 4 times between here and here, 1 month. But it is still an unspecified moment in time. We don't know exactly when we went to London during that month. I have lost my keys 3 times this week. So again, we are limiting the period of time, but it is still an unspecified moment during that period. Be careful. In the last month, this does not mean last month. This is the difference. Last month means the previous month. It is a specific time. And for a specific time, we only use the past simple. But here, in the last month, this is a period of time from 1 month ago until now. And so we use the present perfect. Okay? So we are just making the period in the past shorter, but it is still an unspecified moment during that period. So present perfect or past simple. There are 3 main differences. Present perfect, it is unfinished actions that started in the past and continue to the present. Example, I have worked at IBM for 3 years and I am still there today. But in the past simple, it is for finished actions. So here we say, I worked at IBM for 3 years. And the meaning is different. This means that I no longer work there, because it is a finished action. Second difference, it is a finished action at an unspecified time with a connection to the present. Example, in the present we say, please call an ambulance. I have broken my leg. So there is a connection with the present. But in the past simple, it is a finished action at a specific time and without a connection to the present. I broke my leg yesterday. It was terrible. But there is no real impact or effect in the present. It was yesterday. It's finished. And in the present perfect, we use unfinished time expressions. This week, this month, in the last week. But in the past simple, we use finished time expressions. Yesterday, last month, 2 weeks ago. Okay, so that's a big difference. And very important, we do not use the present perfect with a finished time expression. So, example, we do not say, I have broken my leg yesterday. That is wrong. If we want to say yesterday, we must say, I broke my leg yesterday. Okay?